and glory unto Yahweh Bashim Al Shai, Waharakha Kwadash, which Yahweh, that's the name of the Heavenly Father, Yahweh Shai, that's whom this world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, it's his true name, and the Rakha Kwadash, that is the Holy Spirit. And I would like to also give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and salutations to all you brothers out there. And I just want to do a quick lesson. It's a exhortation video about, not letting, these afflictions, temptations, and, the affairs of this world, afflict you, okay? Or consume you, excuse me, consume you, all right? And it was just something that I was thinking about because, I myself, just like other brothers, we have a lot going on in our lives. Brothers have, full-time jobs, families, and that consumes a lot of time. You want to, work out, you want to, of course, do, more lessons, research more, read more, right? But you can't let these things consume you, though. All right. Yeah, you got these things put in your life, but I'll say this: the Lord knows you can handle these particular things. All right. But point being, though, is, you can't just, throw in the towel because, things get rough. All right. And I was feeling that way yesterday. I was just, I don't know, in a very irritated spirit. I had to, I had to work. I was tired. I had to do things at my house. I felt very burnt out. But still, at the end of the day, we got to continue to push this word, we still got to keep our eyes single. Let me start off with that. We got to keep our eyes single no matter what. This is the book of Matthew chapter 6. I'll start at verse 19. And it reads here, "Lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doeth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doeth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal." And that's what we're supposed to be doing. We're supposed to be laying our treasures in heaven, okay? These heavenly things, all right? You're not supposed to be, putting too much time at the job, your business. Now, of course, do what you have to do, all right? Complete the tasks that are needed. All right, I'm not saying, just basically quit your job and just, be a bum, so to speak. No, but, don't let that, don't become obsessed with, like I said, your job, your business, and your family too. Hey, there's going to be times where you as a man of the Lord, you're not going to be around your children, okay? Your woman, okay? Your parents, etc. You're just not going to be around them, and that's because you have, priorities to deal with, which is what this truth. You got to go to camp. You got to go to classes, okay? You have high holy days to attend. You got to deal with these things. Like I like to say a lot in my videos, that you have to put this truth in the forefront. Everything else is on the back burner, okay? You see? Everything else is on the back burner. It's not really that relevant. Look, money's not going to save you. Your children aren't going to save you. Your woman, parents, your business, these things aren't going to save you. What's going to save you is Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, okay? And as the scriptures say in 2nd Ezra, the 9th chapter, through your faith and your works, that's how you're going to get saved, all right? And those things go hand in hand, because if you have a faith, you're going to be showing works. That's in the book of James. It speaks on that, all right? But let me keep reading. This is back in Matthew chapter 6. I'm read 21 now. Excuse me. "For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also." And it says, "The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thy eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thy eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be dark, how great is that darkness?" All right, so hey, we got to keep our eyes single in this thing. You know, you can't get distracted with what's going on in your life, you know? And we all go through stuff. Hey, brothers, and you got certain brothers, man, they go through, I mean, we all go through hell. But, man, I'll say this, something about bodily afflictions, it does something to you, okay? And I know certain brothers, man, they'll have, or have had, you know, diseases such as sickle cell disease. And that's no joke. Brothers' bodies, you know, burning up in extreme, excruciating pain, can barely do things. You know, you got, brothers, you know, that may have been battling cancer or are battling cancer. All right. And, you know, just a testimony for my situation. I was going through a lot of GI issues a couple years ago, about 2 years ago. And I couldn't even really work for 2 months, going on 3 months. I was in pain, couldn't eat. It was the worst experience I've ever dealt with in my life, you know. But hey, brothers got to deal with that affliction. The scriptures talk about bearing your cross, you know. But that whole time that I'll say this, and I know the other brothers who have that are or have dealt with bodily afflictions, they never, you know, threw in the towel. You know, they can continue to have hope and have belief in Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. All right, continue to do the work. Go out there on the line, make videos, be amongst the brethren. You know, you just got to keep pushing in this thing. You see? All right. Let me read this. This is Matthew 6:24. No man can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will hold to the one and despise the other. Ye cannot serve God and mammon. And that makes me think about what I was mentioning earlier, how you can't be consumed, all right, with your job, you know, your family, you know, things under that nature. You can't be obsessed with it, because the second you start putting that first before Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, now it's a real problem. Now you're not doing videos. Now you're not reading. You know, I can miss camp this week. It's okay. No worries. I'll go, you know, make it up. Next thing you know, you're missing, you haven't been to camp in 2 weeks. You see what I'm saying? It's a snowball effect. All right? And then you eventually fall out. Because that's what happens to guys that do these things. You know? They eventually fall out. Because let me get this, because this is in the book of Exodus. This is actually the number one commandment. All right? This is Exodus chapter 20. And I'm going to start at 1. Main point is really at 5. I'll start at 1. This is Exodus 21. And the Most High spake all these words, saying, I am Yahweh thy power, which have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord Yahweh thy power, am a jealous power, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children, unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. And the reason why I brought that out is, look, if you put anything else in front of Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai, right? That's actually your God now. And as it says there, the Lord Yahweh is a jealous power, okay? And the Lord will start destroying you. And the worst thing is actually being smitten with madness, all right? Let me get this real quick. This is in the book of Sirach 25 and 13. Give me any plague but the plague of the heart, meaning your mind. You don't want your mind to be plagued, okay, with these demons. You know, hey, look at these guys that fall out, you know. We brought it out actually last week, how when an individual falls out, they're now twice dead. They're in a worse situation than, you know, when they were originally in the world. All right. Guys, I'll say this because I actually I saw one of his posts that somehow came up on my feed. You had this one guy in our camp, right? He fell out. It's going on, I think, maybe almost even 3 years now. I mean, it's been a minute. But he's a part of that New Covenant gang, and he's been preaching that literally for about 2.5 years straight. Not even exaggerating. That's the only topic that he talks about. That's somebody that's plagued with madness. Another guy, he is obsessed with partying. He fell out around the same time, a little bit before the one guy that I just mentioned. He's obsessed with partying, smoking cigars, listening to 80s music, and investing, which he's never even successful at. That's the funny part. And the Lord didn't even allow him to hit it big, so to speak, right? Then we saw a guy. I don't know if you guys, some of you all might be new or newer, but you had this camp called ITR, which they were originally from Chicago, right? And you had the main guy Nazariah, but he had his right hand man, which was Taziadia, and they all fell out or whatever, right? But we saw a recent picture of him because he was one of those producers in in the music industry, and this guy just super long twist, fat, out of shape, had a huge blunt in his mouth, and had a t-shirt that had a devil face on it. Dude is through, completely through, man. Out of his goddamn mind. But that's what the Lord will do to you. If you have a malice spirit and you fall out. All right? You see? But as it says here, give me any plague but the plague of the heart, and any wickedness but the wickedness of a woman. But main point is that first part of that in that Sirach 25 and 13, that's the worst thing you can get, having your mind plagued, getting that strong delusion. All right? Because the Lord can make you obsessed with your family. Because there's guys that fell out because of their woman or their children. All right? They got tired of going out there every Saturday and spending several hours out there teaching. I want to go watch Johnny hit the baseball. I got to see little Susie perform at the dance recital, instead of teaching the word. Hey man, let me get this because this is what the scriptures say. This is Matthew chapter 19, and let me get I'll start at 27. Then answered Peter and said unto him, Behold, we have forsaken all and followed thee. What shall we have therefore? And Yahushua said unto him, Verily, verily, I say unto you, that ye which have followed me in the regeneration, when the Son of Man shall sit in the throne of his glory, ye also shall sit upon 12 thrones, judging the 12 tribes of Israel. And every one that hath forsaken houses, or brethren, or sisters, or father, or mother, or wife, or children, or lands, for my name's sake, shall receive 100-fold, and shall inherit everlasting life. And you see, you're going to get rewarded, all right, for forsaking these things, okay? You're going to get all these things back and then some. That's something that, you should have in your mind, all right? The Lord's going to remember your works and labor of love, as it says in the book of Hebrews. He's not an unrighteous power, okay? You see? But there's, look, you may have to, you may be in I'll say this, in a situation where you don't see your kids, or, you have to separate yourself from your parents, or you have to, lose that job, that business, whatever it may be, for this truth. It is what it is. Okay? That's your cross. Let me get that real quick. You got to bear your cross, okay? And each one of us has a tailor-made cross that we got to bear, okay? Here we go. This is Luke chapter 14. I'll start at 26. If any man come to me and hate not his father and his wife and his father and his mother and his wife and his children and brethren and sisters, yea, and his own life also, he cannot be my disciple. And I just want to make a point that you don't necessarily have to, quote unquote, hate, all right, your family. What it means is, look, if they're not in this truth, all right, you can't let them basically be a hindrance to you, you know? All right? You can't put them first. It's always Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shai first, okay? You see? You know? Because, look, I got family that's not in the truth. Actually, all of them. You know, I'm the only one that's in the truth. And, I threw, a thing or two out there, basically, trying to fish to see how my family would react, with certain things I would tell them. And they rejected it, basically immediately. And I knew from then, like, you know what? Let's not even, bring this out. Let's not even mention the truth, right? And I don't talk about it. They know I believe in the scriptures. They know that I follow the Bible. They don't know exactly what I'm involved in, right? And with that being said, when I do see them, hey, we just talk about, for lack of words, normal things. And also, this is just some, like a side note for, especially you younger brothers. Look, man, you can still talk to these people in the world, man. You don't have to, be too deep, so to speak. All right. Look, hey, just talk to them about, hey, maybe some sports. You may talk about, the children, right? Maybe if you travel, you mentioned like, oh yeah, I went over here, blah 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 blah. I did this, it was nice, yada yada yada. You know what I mean? You don't have to always be this deep, guru sensei. You know what I mean? Like, come on, man. You can talk about some normal stuff. Even the Apostle Paul, when you read his epistles, he talked about boxing, track, etc. All right, you see, and that's being wise. The point being, though, is, hey, you can still talk to them and have a so-called relationship with them. But of course, at the end of the day, when the time comes, you'll have to cut them off if they're not in this truth, especially in the times that are fast approaching. You're going to have to cut yourself off from these people because ultimately they are of this world. And as the elder brother Jeremiah says, look, these people are just relatives. They're not your real family. Your real family is those that are in this truth, that are warring with you, all right? Every day, man. That's your true family, you see? But just to make a point, because, for new brothers, you don't necessarily have to, curse your parents out, curse your brother out, whatever, right? Tell them you hate them. Oh, you don't believe in the Lord, I hate you. Like, come on, man. Use some wisdom. Use your goddamn head. Don't put yourself in a bad predicament. Because you're being OR, meaning over righteous. All right, that was just a little side note. But let me keep reading. This is back in Luke 14 and 27. And whosoever doeth not bear his cross and come after me cannot be my disciple. So look, we all have a cross that we got to bear, and it's rough at times. You may have, dealing with, mental battles in your mind. I mentioned the physical afflictions. Different illnesses. Some brothers have financial, hardships. Other brothers may deal with, different relationship issues. Could be with, your woman, your family, children. All right, hey, these are all things that you got to deal with. You see? Oh, let me keep reading. I didn't even know this was in it. This is Luke 14:28. For which of you, intending to build a tower, sitteth not down first and counteth the cost, whether he has sufficient to finish it? And you really got to think about this. You know, this goes for, especially for those who are new in this truth. You got to really sit down and count the cost. Are you ready to give it all up? You know, that's something that you really got to ask yourself. Okay? You know, and I'll say this, starting with the apostles on down, we mention all these things to you. Look, this is what's going to happen. X, Y, Z things. You know, hey, first off, the Bible tells us this. Sirach, the 2nd chapter says what? If ye come to serve the Lord, prepare ye your soul for temptation. You know? Talks about, you know, constantly enduring. Talks about the afflictions. What does it say? Through much tribulations. That's how ye shall enter into the kingdom. That's Acts 14:22. Okay? So you know, the Bible tells you these things, and then we reiterate it. And then we give, you know, personal testimonies and examples of what can occur or what has happened, okay, to ourselves. And then you got to, take these things, you know, to mind and ask yourself, am I really, do I really, you know, want to be a part of this? Because the reason why I'm bringing this up is because you got guys that have been in it that were in it for years and years, and they decided to drop the plow. Now, with that being said, guys like that, they're going to be beaten with many stripes. That's what the I think it's actually in Luke 14 as well. All right. Oh yeah, it's actually right here. This is hold on. Or is that the 12th chapter? Salaki, I thought it was right here. But it says in the book of Luke, I know it's Luke for sure. It says that they that knew the Lord's will and did it not shall be beaten with many stripes. You see? So guys like that are going to have a horrible end. You know? Worse than somebody that heard the word for a moment and said, you know what? This ain't for me. Even though you're still going to get destroyed. All right? But I'm telling you, certain guys are going to get special judgments. And it's not going to be pretty, man. Okay? My point being, though, is you really got to count the cost. And I'll say this, why waste first and foremost the Lord's time, and then why waste your time as well? If this ain't really for you, hey, just go be in the world. Go try to, you know, be the next, you know, I don't know, fucking Lil Wayne or something. You know, Chief Keef. Go be the next Michael B. Jordan, the next Canelo, the next Floyd Mayweather. You know, go do something like that. All right. But let me get back to this. This is Luke 14:28. For which of you intending to build a tower, sitteth not down first and counteth the cost, whether he have sufficient to finish it? Least happily after he had laid the foundation and is not able to finish it, all that behold it begin to mock him, saying, this man began to build and was not able to finish. Or what king going to make war against another king sitteth not down first and consulted whether he be able with 10,000 to meet him that cometh against him with 20,000? Or else, while the other is yet a great way off, he sendeth an ambassador and desireth conditions of peace. So likewise, whosoever he be of you that forsaketh not all that he hath, he cannot be my disciple. See, you got to be, like I said earlier, you got to be ready to give it all up. All right? Because look, this world, it's passing away. All right, let me get that real quick. This is there's actually a couple scriptures that talk about this, but I'll get this one. This is 2 Ezra 4:26. Then answered he me and said, the more thou searchest, the more thou shalt marvel, for the world hasteneth fast to pass away. And that's what's happening. We're literally seeing this world circling down the drain. All right, you know, especially these last couple years, or the last few years. All right, you know, things have been have been, declining at such a rapid rate. These stores aren't in businesses anymore. Okay, or in business anymore. It's like chaos out there, anarchy. You got these teen takeovers. All right, you got these. I forgot what these are called. I don't know why it slips my mind right now. But these guys with all these different Hellcats and Chargers and all that, right? Blocking off the streets, doing donuts. That's straight anarchy. Okay, people. You go to California, in particular. You could go to stores and steal up to like $1,000, and these businesses can't stop you. You go to these, like Europe. You go to these different countries, and they're just infested with these migrants, right? And these migrants are bringing a third world culture to it, and it's just the world is being depleted, man. You're seeing it. And that's all because of Yahweh Shemi Shai. Because look, Esau's world is about to end. In our world, the world of Israel is about to come about. All right? And with that being said, hey, you should be willing to give this all up. Because this ain't worth it. This ain't even really living, man. Okay? Let me get that real quick. Probably end it in a moment. Let me get maybe like 2 scriptures. But I want to get this real quick. This is Second Ezra, is that John? No, Slack. That's John chapter what is it, 14? John chapter 14 and 2 or 1. Let not your heart be troubled. Ye believe in Yahweh, believe also in me. In my Father's houses are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. See, the Lord, he's got a place for us. Okay? You see? Which is this next kingdom. All right? And this is what's and rest is going to be given in this kingdom. All right? This is Second Ezra. Slovakia. Where is it at, man? Damn. Here we go. Yeah, there we go. Oh, rest is allowed. That's how it's worded. This is 2 Ezra chapter 8, verse 52. For unto you is paradise opened, the tree of life is planted, and the time is come. The time to come is prepared. Plenteousness is made ready. A city is builded, and rest is allowed. Yea, perfect goodness and wisdom. And this is what we're fighting for. Okay, it's worth giving up all these things in this world that we have. It's worth dealing with these afflictions, these trials, these tribulations. It's all worth it at the end, because look, this is only a temporary thing. The world to come is going to be an everlasting, So why not fight for it? Why not labor for it? You see? All right? So, hey, brothers, hey, even though you're going through stuff, you just deal with it. Bear your cross. Don't get consumed with this world. With your job, the family. Okay? I know brothers have homes. Don't get too caught up in all this stuff. All right? But, hopefully this was edifying. I'm going to end this lesson. And with that, I'm going to give all praises, honor, and glory unto Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Also, double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, and salutations to all you brothers out there. Shalom.